pre-close questions, and I've done a lot of price conditioning, right? Now, throughout my entire presentation, I do price conditioning as well. And now, before I get down into the price, now I just want to confirm, Dave, to wrap things up before we get into the price. I've priced your project out using the insulated flat slab siding. Now, the last thing I can show you is the soffit and fascia work all the way around your home where we walked around and I showed you, pointed that stuff out. That is all the white trim that you have and the gutters and everything. I'm going to do what's called an IntelliVent vinyl soffit system. So the vents are actually hidden in between here. So you don't see that cheese grater effect that we have in the house where it's all dirty. And I point that out for my customer. Wow, look, it looks like there's all dirt coming right out of that one vent. Yep. So we want to hide your vents so you don't see that. So I'm going to put vinyl soffit everywhere, and then I'm going to cover everything else in the aluminum all the way around. And I'll show you the trim and everything. So now I've gone through all that. Now I'm going to put all this stuff away for the meantime, because I don't want them getting overwhelmed looking at everything, right? All the decisions are made at this point in time. We just need to price the project out. So Mrs. Johnson, it'll just take me a few minutes, and while I'm looking, or while I'm working at this project, let me give you the siding brochures and some company literature so you can look through it while I'm pricing out the project. Okay? So now, I've priced out the entire project. This is perfect. Here's my exact one I used for her. So now, Mrs. Johnson, as we talked about, the 60-month promo, the MSRP, the manufacturer suggested retail price, comes in at $24,080. Now I'm giving you a discount of 10%. Remember we talked earlier about that initial visit discount? So I can give you some incentive to move forward. And on top of this, it's the 1st of July, I think I went on this one. I said, we had a fabulous June sale. That's actually not to be held over, but I have another measurement today that I'm going to price. So I'm going to batch your order potentially with another order, so I can capitalize on giving you that other sale from last month. That's what I would be saying all week long, gentlemen. I'm batching your order with a June sale, and it's a better incentive than that. I don't point out that the postcard's going to end on the 18th. Don't worry, we'll do another one exactly like that. And I will say this in case they acknowledge, well, you've been running the same promo for the last year. Absolutely, the discount has been the same. But what isn't advertised is that the price fluctuates. This is an oil-based commodity. The prices go up and down every month. So now, of the 20 years I've been in business, I've never seen it go down. Now it could go up and down, right? Theoretically. But when was the last time you went to the gas station and it was down significantly? It just doesn't happen, right?
I got a question. How are you handling, which I see that they're still promoting it,
The 40 off.
the
Yep.
40
I
off.
had somebody look
Yep.
at me like I was a.
So let me-
I had pointed out and they could not even see.
Yep.
Let me walk you
off
through
the
it.
labor.
Let me walk you through it. So now, Mrs. Johnson, I've given you a discount, and on our promo, it says the 40% off. Not only did I use the 40% off promo, I actually did one better for you. I used last month's sale, which was $200 off a square, or the 40%. It actually works out to be a little bit better than the 40% off on the labor.
I don't understand.
So I've given you a discount here that is better.
That's 10%.
That's greater than 40% off. It's 40% off the labor only. This is 10% off the entire project. If I were to break out the labor of this, it would be less than the 10% off the entire project.
Are we breaking that out for people to say
never.
that labor is, so we just go with the $200 off as a greater sale?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's
So
it's
what
usually
are
an
you
upside.
saying? Well, how much is the labor, 40% off labor? Are you dropping what?
If it's 40% off of the
75?
labor, if it's 40% off the labor, I pay $65 a square, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. So I give you 40% off of $65. What is that? That's $24 off. Now we're running a $200 off per square. What would you rather have? Even if I gave you labor at 100% off, it's still $60 as opposed to $200. The promotion that my manufacturer is giving is better than the labor promotion. Which would you rather have, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner?
Well,
You can't have both. It's neither or. Which would you rather have? So now in this particular project, I've given you all the applicable discounts that I possibly can. And I'll even bring this up because I did the other day and I knew it was a previous HVAC customer. Now, Mrs. Johnson, I've given you what equals out to a 10% discount. That gives you a previous, or that gives you initial visit discount. It gives you the June sale that we had, and I'm rolling in another sale on top of that. Your CMP, what's that? Or are you a member where you do the buyer's club, where you get an additional 10% off of everything figured in there? No? I said, well, I've added that number in here for you. So everything included, you're getting better than or equal to a 10% discount in here. Oh, great, perfect. So I'm at $2,400 discount, $21,672. Now, Mrs. Johnson, that actually equals out to $361 per month. Or if you want to do the cash discount, you get the 10% plus an additional 10% discount, brings you down $19,152. And Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, which one works best for you and your budget? She said, well, I'm going to have to do the financing. I said, just pointed right down to the arrow, and I said, fair enough. That's what we'll do. I'll get you the application. It's a simple process. And she says, great. So I'm calling on the application. I'm calling in the application as I'm talking to Debbie. I'm writing out my contract, okay? And sometimes when I'm on hold, like on this one, I got approved for 18 right away. I needed 21. So I said they have to call in for the additional amount. Right off the bat, the computer generated an approval for 18,000. And she's like, oh, okay. I said, no, it has to go to 21 or 22. And she says, okay. I said, well, let's see if we can get that interest free. And she says, fair enough. And while I'm figuring all this out, they came back with 21.7 was my number. But let me tell you, here's what I did in the meantime. Should I have gotten denied, it was already figured out the next game plan. Because I will say this to them, now Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, they're going for the automatic increase. If we should not get the automatic increase, let's address the $4,000 or $2,000 difference. Now what we can do today is we can take that difference and form a check or a credit card. Which would you rather do? She says, oh, I'd rather write you a check for it. I said, okay. So then if we can do all 0% interest, that would be ideal. She says, absolutely. I go, or we stay at the 18, depending on what they say, and you got to write me a check for the remaining 21. She's like, yeah, okay, perfect. So it's already worked out before I get it back, and if I get denied, like I did the other day, I was shooting for $35,000 in financing. I got 18, and that was it. And she said, okay, that's fine. Or $28,000 fine. She wrote me a check right on there, right spot as a deposit for 10 grand. So I said, perfect. So it's all in the way you present it, right? Now again, I can discount cash because you're only dealing with 4 seasons. Here, if we're dealing with the bank, I just can't discount it any further than I have. Fair enough? Oh, absolutely. Now she's buying based on convenience of making $361 a month payment for the next 60 months. Now, Mrs. Johnson, incidentally, that doesn't start until probably 30 days after you've signed the completion certificate and the job has been done. Any questions? No. Incidentally, while I already got the $18,000 approved and I worked out the other cash issue, I started filling out all the forms and I said, now this is your 3-day right to cancel. If you just sign here. She signed them all. And I said, I'll wait. And so she signed all the incidental forms before I got my approval. So I didn't want to write down 21 grand, then you have to rewrite it and scribble it again. So she had everything already signed before I actually got the contract signed. It was a no-brainer. She would have probably filled out the contract for me. She was so excited about the product. So that is my siding demonstration. Now, let me tell you, I go to this house, 90 degrees, sweating my butt off. I don't care. I've gone to a house on the cold